I think everyone agrees that Aaron Rodgers, or maybe Patrick Mahomes, but basically Aaron Rodgers is the platonic ideal of a quarterback, the best, most talented quarterback of all time, but not the GOAT. Brady is the GOAT. And even though he can't move like Rodgers, even though he can't throw off platform like Rodgers, and we see it again, like Rodgers is great. He outplays Tom Brady, but loses. So 30 years from now, when our kids are like, can you please explain to me why Brady was better than Rodgers? Because I'm watching their highlights, and Rodgers' highlights are cool, and these highlights are awful. Can you explain this? What is it, Vish? Why is Brady the GOAT of the modern era?
I'll put it in a 49ers context. I'll spin it that way. Like, it's the same way that all you people older than me would explain to me why Joe Montana is better than Dan Marino. Right. I think that's the same conversation here. Yeah. The one thing I will say about Rodgers, and I kind of have a different view on it, because although Brady's success is inarguable, and it's really hard to really put anybody above him in any capacity, because he has all the all-time counting numbers, he has all the all-time starts, his winning resume is beyond impeccable, and 10 Super Bowls, like 10 Super Bowls. I'm 21.
That's crazy. That's
right.
Like LeBron James.
I know it's even beyond it, because he's 6-3 in these 9 Super Bowls, and now he's about to play in his 10th. Right. So it's something spectacular in a sport with a salary cap where you're not supposed to be able to do this. The entire idea of football is that you're not supposed to have teams like this, and you have it. So what he's doing is insane. The way I would describe it in my lifetime is that I think Aaron Rodgers has reached a peak that no other player I've ever seen has reached in terms of just mastery of his play. But I don't think he's been as consistently playing at a high level as Tom Brady in his career. Aaron Rodgers has had moments where he reaches in a game or in a season or in an individual. Like 2011, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback season I've ever seen anybody play. It was beyond phenomenal. He dragged a 32-ranked defense to 15-1. And I think maybe Mahomes is the only guy that can challenge him. But Brady has been consistently just under that tier for what, like 15 years in a row where he's played, right, just under that tier of GOATness. If Rodgers' peak was GOATness, Brady's like right here for like 15 years. And what he does is beyond phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I think the thing with Brady that people,
it was like Hank Aaron. I don't know if you're a baseball guy, but Hank Aaron, I don't know if he ever got to 50 home runs in a season, or he never got to 60. But he was just consistently at 45, and then boom, most home runs all time. Yep.
Right. Yeah. And so here's what I will say about Brady before we get into, because I think with Brady, he's painted as the 6th round pick that worked really hard. So I did want to say one thing about Tom Brady. The physical tools are part of why he is where he is today. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. He's first of all, he's 6'4". He's a big guy, so he can see over defenses, big hands, spins the ball really, really well, and he can absolutely sling it. He's also still slinging it at 43.
Best I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anybody
better than Peyton Manning's, and Peyton Manning's was the best at a certain point. They're so good at. No one's ever done it like them.
Just an absolute insane arm and all of that. So I did want to address that. That's a lot of why he is where he is. And then he's so smart, right? And he diagnoses coverages so quickly, gets the ball out so quickly. But the other thing I want to say with him is I do think that the one thing that's really changed, and it's Tom Brady's willingness to adapt. He's adapted to every little change that the NFL has made and taken his strengths and applied them to the game. Like when he came into the NFL, it was a 2-back, 2-receiver offense where he was under center. Then he started moving into the shotgun, and they got Randy Moss, and he became a deep ball thrower. Then they readjusted in the last few playoffs. Yeah. He's had to go back to being under center where they hand it off and throw off play action. He's always able to adapt his game to the game plan and fit it, even though their game plans were excellent and all of that. So the quarterback still has to fit it and execute it, and he was phenomenal at it. And then the other thing, and I think the thing that really sticks out even in yesterday's game, is Brady's situational awareness is beyond phenomenal. He has such a great idea of, hey, I'm not playing bad in this game, but if I make these 3 throws, we can still win the game. And he makes those 3 throws and they win the game. And he just has a really great understanding of how to make sure that they win the game and how to get that win. And he's really one of a kind.
Okay, so I think what we're saying is Tom Brady's physical tools are really underrated. He's not some stiff. He really has one of the best arms ever.
No.
But what we're saying also is that he doesn't have the physical tools that Aaron Rodgers has.
No.
Basically, no one does except for maybe Mahomes and
Elway.
Yeah, yes. And this guy doesn't. Brady. I mean, I think Tony Dungy came out like a couple months ago and said, there's like 6 or 7 guys I would take over Brady all time just because of the movement. Brady doesn't move. Okay. Well, there's a reason that Tom Brady has accomplished all he's accomplished without the ability to move, which is a limitation. And I think what I would tell my grandkids or whatever is that what Brady's, the full package of what he brought to a team went far beyond what he did on the field. Way beyond. I mean, if Peyton Manning was an offensive coordinator, Tom Brady's a head coach. And Bruce Arians has really validated it. He's like, the guy wants to coach the team. They wouldn't let him do it in New England. I have no ego. You do it, dude. I'm just going to drink. He doesn't say that the last one. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, man, dude, go ahead. I'll sit back and take credit, or I won't. So what makes him so great is that he's a coach. He's a leader. Players look up to him in a way that I've never seen players look up to a quarterback. It's like, wow, this freaking Tom Brady, we're going to win the Super Bowl. There's like no doubt in my mind. And I'm not saying that Rodgers isn't like that, but to me, he's less of a leader. He's more of a Han Solo type of dude. He's out there for himself and he's great. He's just not that little extra that makes Tom the greatest in a team sport.
I do. So to get into the kind of psychology of it, I do think the 2 things that Tom Brady has had that nobody ever talks about, but it's been like so underrated throughout his career is, one, he is so confident. His self-belief and conviction and how much he believes in himself is beyond any it's like it's like Michael Jordan's self-belief in himself. He just comes across as, oh shucks, I'm just a corny guy who is like that. But this guy really believes in himself.
He can beat the aging process, and so far he's like up on the scoreboard.
Right. And Aaron Rodgers, right? We've seen games like the Denver when he played against the no-fly zone and threw for 60-something yards or something in the regular season. Against the Niners last 2 years, we've seen games where he kind of loses his poise and loses his confidence. Like, hey, we just can't get this done. I've really got nowhere to go with the ball. What am I supposed to do? How can I beat them?
It's not my fault. My team doesn't have it.
Yeah. Right. And technically it isn't his fault. But for whatever reason with Brady, if you remember, Brady played the no-fly zone defense, and that was in Denver where they didn't have Dante Scarnecchia that year, and Von Miller probably hit Brady 15 times individually in that game. And then you throw in DeMarcus Ware and you throw in the other couple guys they had inside. I'm blanking on their names. Malik Jackson and a few guys like that. And Brady's receivers that year weren't like phenomenal. It was Gronk. And Brady basically was a 2-point conversion away from tying that ball game at the end because he just keeps getting up. He keeps battling. He's so confident in himself. He never loses his poise, never loses his confidence, never loses his accuracy. And he just keeps making the right play. And ultimately that gets him to almost winning the game. So, yeah, I do think that's part of what makes him so great.
He's just a better competitor than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I love Aaron Rodgers, and the Niners should get him. And if they get him, I do think they could take down the Bucks. But it's not a guarantee because Tom Brady is a bad man. He's really freaking good. And the way I look at him is like he could do this on a lot of teams. What he did to Tampa. Now Tampa's good, but he could go to a lot of teams. And the only other athlete I can think of who does that is LeBron. LeBron could go to like 25 of the 30 teams in the NBA and have them as like a top 4 seed in their conference, just because. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and with LeBron, similarly, it's not just everything he does on the court. He is the coach of the team. He's the GM of the team. He brings a level of confidence and professionalism and all of that is valuable. So Brady, yes, that is what makes him the GOAT. And it's cool to see him back in the Super Bowl. Good for him. Everyone wrote him off last year. It's a really cool story. It's kind of like, I don't know, some golf stuff.
So someone actually put in the comments something about if the 49ers had drafted these 2 guys, they wouldn't have been who they are. And we absolutely agree with that point. We're talking about who they are right now. I think Grant is referring to today's Tom Brady could go to any team and have a similar impact.
Universe, like what actually happened in their career.
Yeah.
So how I want to finish this topic before we move on is just to say that it still boggles my mind, and I don't think I'll ever quite get over in the rest of my life, just from the fact that they didn't sign Tom Brady when they could have had him. I understand the emotions of the time, but wow, they passed on him. And even if they get Rodgers this year, he's not Tom Brady. But the lesson they learned is when the greatest quarterback of all time or someone in that conversation says, "You're the team I want," you just say thank you. That's just it. That's what we learned. Class, what did we
It's
learn?
funny. I don't think we learned it because Peyton Manning was right there to be gotten, and they didn't get him. I don't know the full details with Manning. Maybe he didn't want to come to an NFC team with Eli. Maybe those little things. Not sure, but yeah, it's like it's unfortunate that it's worked out in my lifetime that twice. Probably growing up, like I had a Peyton Manning jersey growing up, and Tom Brady was my favorite player when I was 4 years old because the Patriots were winning, and the 4-year-old me wanted to attach myself to winning, not
Yes.
the 49ers with Dennis Erickson and all of that. So I was a Tom Brady fan till I was like 5 or 6. And so it's unfortunate. It still boggles my mind that, we had the opportunity to get both and we couldn't get them.